This is David Holmes. I'm the broker at Home Real Estate Company. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes to drop in and get a little bit more information on buying your own house. You know, when we bought our first house, oh man, 25 years ago, golly, can't be that long. We almost got into it by force, really. We were living in a little apartment in Dallas, didn't have a lot of money saved up, knew we couldn't save up a lot of money. And one morning we wake up and there are bullet casings all over the parking lot of our apartment complex, all over our front porch. And it was at that moment that we realized, hey, we got to start saving and getting some money together to buy a house. So we spent probably the next year, man, doing odd jobs and anything we could, scrimping and saving, and finally pulled enough money together to buy our first house, $99,000 house. And man, it felt like it about killed us trying to save up enough money to get into that. When it was all said and done, our costs and expenses tallied together, it cost us $13,000 to get into that house. And I remember, you know, we had our key, we walked in for the first time, our very own house, and realized, hey, we got no furniture. Man, we don't even have a vacuum cleaner. Refrigerator is empty, but we had our own house. And you know, a lot of things have changed since then. There are a lot of new loan programs available out there, a lot of new creative ways to do a real estate deal now that really help with that. As a matter of fact, we just closed another first-time home buyer last week, and using some of the strategies that I'm going to show you here in a minute, they brought $287 to the closing table. Man, I look back 25 years ago, if we had been able to get into a house for $287, man, we could have had some furniture, we could have eaten. That would have been nice. You know, it just would have given us a lot more flexibility and kept a lot more money in our pocket. So how do we do this? How do we get this cost down so normal people like us can get into a house of our own? First question that I'm asked really all the time is, can I just ask the seller to pay my closing costs? Well, the short answer to that is yes and no. There's a lot of confusion on exactly what a closing cost is. And actually, every cost and expense related to the closing of that loan, of that deal, is a closing cost. And so you've got things like your down payment, you've got prepaid taxes and insurance, lender fees, title policies, survey, appraisal, attorney fees, miscellaneous fees, fees for having to pay fees. I mean, you name it, the list goes on and on and on of all the expenses that are involved in closing that real estate deal. So if we look at a regular house, let's say it's $100,000. All right, let's just add up the cost to close associated with a $100,000 house. First of all, you got your down payment, which is going to probably be about $3,500. That's if your lender requires 3.5% down. Some may require a little less, some may require a little bit more. But you've got your prepaid taxes and insurance that you're responsible for, which is probably going to cost you about $1,000. You've got your lender fees, you've got your title policy, you've got your survey, your appraisal, attorney's fees, miscellaneous fees. I use question marks there because that could be anywhere from $300 to $1,500. I mean, it just depends on your lender. So you add all of that up, you're looking at buying a $100,000 house. You're looking at having to bring $8,500 out of your pocket to the closing table. Well, the reality is that's just not feasible for most of us today. So how do we get that amount down so we can get into our own home? Let's take a look real quick. I'm going to show you a strategy that I use every day with buyers to help get that number down and make it a little bit more manageable. So we're going to start out. We need $8,500 to close, right? First thing that we're going to do is we're going to get with a good lender that has some quality down payment assistance grants. This, man, I wish we had this back in my day. The market is so competitive in lender world now that these banks and these lenders actually have to compete for your business. And so one of the ways they do that is they offer assistance towards your down payment. And how that works is they'll give you a grant of maybe 1% of the purchase price, 2%, 3%, all the way up to possibly 6% of the purchase price of your home that you can apply toward your down payment. Okay. Now, you'll end up paying just a little bit higher interest rate for that grant, but it really helps to put money in your pocket up front, or actually cover upfront costs. Okay. Which means you have to bring less to the closing table. So for this example, let's say we get a down payment grant of $4,000. Okay, so the bank is going to grant us $4,000. We're going to pay a little bit higher interest rate for that privilege, but they're going to give us that money up front to help with our closing costs. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to negotiate into the contract, and we're going to negotiate the seller to pay some of the expenses related to closing. For example, we're going to ask them to pay for the title policy. Remember, that was about $875 in this example. We're going to ask them to pay for the survey. We can ask them to do that there in the contract. We're going to ask them to pay for a home warranty. So we're going to ask them to pay for a total of about $1,500 worth of expenses within the contract. The third thing that we're going to do, there's a special section in the real estate contract where we can ask for seller concessions. Now, this is money that we ask the seller to give us up front, not for specific items, but just a sum of money that they're going to give us up front that's going to help reduce our closing costs. Now, sometimes we might pay a little bit higher purchase price for the privilege of getting a little bit of extra money on the front end, but it's all negotiable. It all works into the deal. And so we're going to ask a seller to pay $3,000 in concessions there, which is not unusual. Sellers are used to having to do that. None of this is going to scare a seller off. You know, part of the negotiating process is working back and forth until everybody's happy. Okay, so there are some strategies and some techniques that we can use as negotiators to make that a win-win situation for everybody. So what I'm saying is, you're not going to incredibly overpay for the house to get the money that you need up front. It's going to be a win-win for everybody. So in this particular situation, you know, we look at, hey, our cost to close is $0. Now, granted, these numbers aren't exactly perfect. You know, the last 4 or 5 deals that I've done with first-time home buyers, last week we closed one for $287. That's actually the highest of the last 4 or 5. The one before that, the numbers worked out so perfectly that they brought exactly $0 to the closing table. A month ago, we closed a deal where our buyers actually got $150 back. Man, I wish we had that in our day. You buy a house, you get house keys and a check for $150. That was not a bad deal. So this is a basic overview of how it's possible to get you into your own home for a lot less than you think. You see, we had this misperception that we had to save a ton of money before we would be able to buy our house. And that's just not the case today. You know, if you get connected with the right lender, with the right loan program, you get connected with the right real estate professional that knows how to effectively negotiate a deal, then it's really quite easy to put together a deal where you come out ahead. So that's basically how we do it. And would love to help you get into your own home. Would love to help you. Love to visit with you. see if something like this is a good fit for you. Feel free to call me. You can text me back at this number. Send me an email. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. If you just need a little bit more information, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a great day and happy house hunting.